Good morning. This is the third part of our series on this bread maker. I want to run through a few things first. When you just plug the bread maker in, it comes up to a preset. That's a 1.5 pound white loaf of soft bread, and that corresponds to the 1.5 pound recipe that is in the book, 750 grams for you metric folks. The menu button on the bottom left allows you to scroll through all of the different varieties of things that you can do. Soft bread, a particular interest is number 12, leaven dough. That would be bread with yeast in it. That runs about an hour and a half. So that's something that you might be interested in. Oh, geez. All right. And also, thank you for my dog for helping there. The bottom right-hand button, bake. If you were to do the default recipe, throw everything in the bucket, all you have to do is hit the button. If you want to do time delays and stuff like that, you have to do press and holds on the button. The one thing that I don't really enjoy about this that I read in the book is that after it gets done with a baking cycle, it goes to keep warm mode. I'm not too thrilled with that idea. You know from the last video, I'm no fan of warm bread, but I could see where a keep warm mode could possibly lead to a problem should you happen to forget it or go out of the house and come back to one very stale loaf of bread, and that would be a disappointment to you. The other thing is about this is it has a 15-minute keep alive memory in it. So if you get all frustrated and caboodled going through the instructions and trying to decide what you're trying to do, and in your frustration decide to unplug the thing and start over again, when you plug it back in, if you don't wait 15 minutes, it's going to go right back and put you right back where you were before. I don't really understand the usefulness of that feature, but hey, I didn't design this thing. All right. I believe I had a question about the small, large spoon. My wife pointed out to me that printed in very small letters on the spoon is teaspoon and tablespoon. My bad. Okay, I did double check it with an actual teaspoon and a tablespoon, and yes, it is. It's a teaspoon and a tablespoon. Now, I've gotten the recipe up here for the 750. That's a 1.5 pound loaf of plain old white bread. It's the default setting on the machine when you plug it in. I'm not going to play around with the colors of crust. It defaults to medium. I have measured out the liquid ingredients and put them in that 2-cup measure. And I have put the flour in the larger Pyrex measure. Now, this recipe calls for 400 grams of flour. If you are not conversant with metric, 100 grams of flour, roughly 3/4 of a cup. Okay, so this, even though this is a liquid measure, it came up, I did it all with dry measure cups, and it came up showing as the 3-cup, which makes sense for a 1.5 pound loaf because I use 4 cups of flour in my 2-pound loaf. Now, according to now this has all been washed out, dried, baked, pre-baked, and then cleaned out again, so it's ready to go. They like to have you put the liquid measure in first. And follow that with the flour. Hey, why do it neatly on a countertop when you can make a mess in the bread maker? Typical man, right? And the yeast I put on top of the flour. Got most of it in there. Some of it's down in the heating element. Gives me something to clean up afterwards. Okay. Close the lid. Hit the button. It should start stirring and it should start doing its thing. I'm not going to run the video through the whole procedure of you watching this thing sit here. And I'll come back when it's done.